How's it going, YouTube? Yeah, Pat Mac here, bringing you a mid-season recap for TGR. I'm going to take a look at the Scarlet division and potentially the Violet division in this video as well, although depending on how long it takes, that might be a separate video, so we'll see. I'm going to talk about just how well the team is doing overall. You can see the standings there on the right side. So Gaz and Dunn are at the top with 3 wins and 1 loss, and then we have a bunch of 2-2 teams, and then a couple coaches down at the bottom there with 1-3 with the Vegas Volcaronas with Ant-Man and the Old Blood with Sandy Simmies. But anyway, I'm just going to take a look at what's working for the team, just so we can see kind of from the kill differential spreads, that kind of stuff, and then yeah, I'll look at like what's working on the team, what's not, see if there's any changes that I'd suggest, and we'll go from there. So yeah, all right, let's go take a look at the first team here. So this is the Rust City Rejects. It's coached by Arts. Arts is an awesome dude. I know him from playing a lot of singles leagues, and he's been dipping his toes in doubles for, I want to say, the last like year now. It's probably been a little while, but yeah, he's been playing quite a bit of both formats, whereas I had only known him from singles before. But as you can see, like, he has brought Tatsugiri and Dondozo every match. So games played there, you can see it's 4 for each of them. And honestly, both Pokemon are doing pretty well, right? They have a positive KD, and so my guess is that those are the Pokemon that are carrying him in his victories and probably doing fairly well in the matches that he's losing too. Which makes sense, right? Like, that's a combo you have to prep for, and it's pretty tough to deal with because you kind of need ways to get rid of stat boosts, because the Dondozo combo with Tatsugiri gives you +2 in all of your stats, so things like Haze or Clear Smog, that kind of stuff will usually help against it. But I can also see that like he's bringing a lot of his supportive mons too with like, I guess Indeedee male isn't as supportive as Indeedee female, but it does set Psychic Terrain to help Armarouge deal a ton of damage, and then he's also bringing Morgrim quite a bit. I'm actually super surprised to see that Great Tusk has only been brought 1 time. I think that might have been a transaction. So maybe you just didn't like it for week 4, but I think that might have been a transaction for week 3. I could be wrong about that, but I'm not going to take a bunch of time to dive into it to see if it was or not. But I would expect that Great Tusk gets brought a little bit more often for him, just because it's such a strong Pokemon. Yeah. But yeah, things that are not working, like Indeedee is not really putting a whole lot of pressure on teams, it looks like, aside from potentially supporting Armarouge with Psychic Terrain. But this team has a ton of the same types. Like there's double water, double psychic. Yeah, I guess those are probably the 2 ones, but those ones are more about like how well they combo together. But obviously dark types would be really good against this team, which is probably where Great Tusk can come in, and to deal with those dark types. And then I guess Doxbun would help there as well. But doesn't look like Doxbun doing particularly well, just in a gameplay sort of thing. And actually, I'm kind of surprised to see Doxbun on this team. I would consider trading that Pokemon away, and potentially Lurantis as well. It doesn't look like they're Pokemon that are being brought too much. I mean, Pikachu and Muck haven't been brought at all, but they're also both 1 point, so there probably isn't a whole lot you can do in terms of transactions to trade those, but Doxbun and Lurantis might be worth considering switching things up. Because I also don't think that, like I look at this team and I'm not bringing a Fire type. Like, it's not happening. So I just don't think that that's something that teams are going to consider, so dropping Lurantis and Doxbun I think is fine, because you're just not going to get the well-baked body boost from Doxbun unless you're like targeting with your own mon like Armarouge. But like, I mean, I'd much rather just Armor Cannon an enemy, you know what I mean? Anyway, let's go take a look at our next team here. Oh, you can see that Arts is where do we see him? We see him like smack dab in the middle of the standings, right? And top 6 make it in, so he's in a good spot. And if he kind of keeps what he's doing, he's very likely to make it in to playoffs, which is really where you want to be at the end of the season anyway. All right, next team we have here is I'm gonna say it as Alex, but I don't actually know if that's how you pronounce that. But they're the coach of the Coastal Kilowattrels. They're new to our league, so I don't really know a whole lot about them. But you can see at 2-2 and -3 and 6th place that they're doing just fine, you know. But they have a lot of cool options here. I think one thing, I'm kind of surprised to see that Mismagius isn't being used. Just because like the first 2 Pokemon, actually there's several fighting weaknesses, right? So having Mismagius to be able to switch in on fighting type attacks could be kind of nice. But there's Mousehold, Baxcalibur, Iron Bundle, Zoroark, like are all weak to fighting. And actually, all of those Pokemon have been brought every week. So I wish I had known what the matchups were, but I feel like fighting, like I would just want to bring fighting Pokemon against this team, especially because like he's not using Mismagius, so there's no immunity at least, and I guess Kilowattrel as a resist like isn't the bulkiest Pokemon, so yeah, I guess there is a Staraptor there too, so maybe there's reason not to have a ton of fighting types, but to bring against this team. But yeah, just in general, the Pokemon that Alex is bringing a lot are pretty weak to fighting. But yeah, 2-2 is pretty solid here. Taking a look at like how the team is doing, we can see that like Iron Bundle has a positive KD. Big surprise, right? Like that Pokemon's really strong, so not at all surprised to see that mon is doing well. Although it doesn't have any like apparent synergies on the team. Like there's nothing that can potentially set Hail to help like with Blizzard spam, or like any like fake tears use or anything like that can kind of boost its damage output. But obviously Alex is still doing a great job with them. And yeah, aside from that, like it just like looks overall that he's got a team that's working pretty well. And you don't really have to prep too much in terms of dealing with Mismagius or Dedenne, because it doesn't look like they're Pokemon that Alex is super interested in bringing, at least at the moment. Staraptor being brought is pretty cool though. It looks like it was just brought in this last week and picked up 2 kills and 2 deaths. I actually input this game, so I happen to know that it was a Final Gambit Staraptor. That was one of the KOs that it picked up, so pretty cool. But having some options with Zoroark to be able to disguise as Pokemon seems kind of good. I wonder what I would want to disguise as. Because you'd want to have something that they're not really going to want to target that slot, but that's still going to deal a ton of damage. I mean, honestly, having Zoroark disguise as Mismagius could be kind of good. Because then, like, you're not going to take any, like, bug or... yeah, you're not going to take any bug attacks. You're not going to take any fighting attacks in that spot. So that might be something that they want to consider using throughout the season. But yeah, overall, looks like their team is doing pretty well. It looks like they're doing well overall. Baxcalibur is really cool. That's one that I particularly want to try out, but we'll see. We'll see if I ever get a chance, but it looks like it's doing pretty well for him. I think 5 and 7 is respectable, you know, because it's supporting the team and it's obviously involved in the games, and yeah. All right, let's go and take a look at the Old Blood. So Sandy Simmies. Okay, so this is a team that I particularly want to take a look at because they're not doing too well in the standings overall. They're 1 and 3 at the moment, but it looks like they've had a couple close games, and then a couple games that are pretty lopsided. So let's see what we got. Oh, okay, so Flutter Mane and Sun Mode. Wait, this team looks kind of dope. Okay, so I guess what's working? So obviously Torkoal is working. Oh my god, Torkoal is working, right? Do they have a good Trick Room setter? It looks like Rabska and NDD could both set Trick Room. I guess technically Flutter Mane could too, but I wouldn't really count on that. You know, I kind of think that this team, aside from like Lilligant in Sun and Flutter Mane, is really slow actually. So that might be part of the reason that the team's having trouble overall. I wouldn't know for sure unless I looked like really like dove in and looked at matchups. But I kind of get the sense that, yeah, I kind of get the sense that it might be a Trick Room scenario where they're like really relying on Torkoal. But I also really like that, like Sandy here is switching up the mons that he's using. A lot of times, some of the other teams we've seen that they haven't used some of their lower tier mons, but like he's brought Primeape, right? He's brought Oricorio, and I think those are all really cool. I actually watched a video super recently where it was a rattled Dunsparce and beat up Primeape, and it popped a weakness policy on the Dunsparce, and it got to like crazy stats and was able to go for stored power, which sounds crazy cool. But you could also have something like I don't know what you do with that. You could probably like start that combo, get all the boosts onto your Dunsparce, go for stored power to nuke something, and then assuming Dunsparce is able to live a hit afterwards, then you swap out the Primeape into Indeedee, pick up another KO, and then you have Follow Me to win out the rest of the game. Like, that sounds like a really dope combo. That might be something that Sandy might be considering. Yeah, I think overall the team looks really slow, and it's got a fair amount of bulk. And I would kind of expect that, like I expect because of that reason that Torque will be doing really well, but it might be worthwhile to consider some other options to give himself some more speed, because I think, I guess Oricorio is pretty fast. So it's like Oricorio, Lilligant and Sun, and Fluttermane are kind of like a fast mode, and everything else is really slow. So I feel like there's a lot of reliance on Trick Room. And not really, I guess you could like Follow Me with NDD and then like Trick Room with Rabska. So that seems like an option. But then, oh wait, hold on. How many dark weaknesses are there? There's kind of a lot, huh? Oh, maybe not as much as I was thinking. It's just those two. Okay. I think my mind was still on the Psychic Dunsparce. Which, again, I think is super cool. So we'll see if it goes for something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm it's hard to say, you know, how well teams are doing or how the games are going without watching some of them, and that's one of the downsides of a Wi-Fi league, even though playing them is way cooler, is to know exactly how things are doing from a mid-season recap kind of standpoint. But yeah, like it looks like Fluttermane is doing okay, and then Torkoal is going absolutely nuts. But yeah, some of the other Pokemon don't seem like they're doing quite as well, and it looks like there might be a lot of reliance on the Trick Room mode. Just actually, now that I'm looking at which Pokemon are being brought a lot, there are a lot of the slower ones. So if teams like notice that and potentially try to outbulk you, or play in Trick Room, or be able to stop it in some way, then it might be kind of difficult. In terms of transactions that I would recommend, I'd probably recommend considering some of these Pokemon to drop them and look for some faster threats. Something that can support your Fluttermane, support your Sun mode a little bit more. Because it looks like there's quite a few pieces here, but we could probably switch some things up. I don't know exactly which Pokemon I'd consider dropping, but it'd probably be more so how the points worked out on the board. But I would consider trying to get something that can support a fast mode a little bit more. And there is still time, right? We're halfway through the season. This can be 5-3 by the end of the season, right? And that's probably going to make it into playoffs as the top 6. So there's still definitely time to work those things through. All right, next up we have the Midland Marowak Coast by Dunnikin. And oh my god, Annihilape is popping off. Wow. I don't know exactly how I thought or how I felt about Annihilape going into the season. Like, I thought it was good, but 11-3 good? Man knows how to play Annihilape. That's what I'm learning right here. He knows exactly what he wants to do. I kind of wonder what sets he's using. It's obviously it's not like a Final Gambit kind of set, right? Otherwise we'd see a lot more deaths on it. But it could be like just like maybe a bulk up set or something like that, to where it's really, really difficult to kill and still being able to output a ton of damage. But yeah, this team looks sweet. There's a lot of really strong offensive threats, a lot of physically offensive threats. You know, I wonder how much... You don't really have to worry about special attacking Pokemon, do you? Okay, so I'm kind of surprised that people aren't trying to like physically defensive bulk out against this team, because like Arboliva seems like, and I guess Electrox to a certain extent, are the only special attacking threats that I would be concerned about. And then everything else is very physical, like, and hard hitting physical too, right? Like Ceruledge, Quaquaval, Annihilape. Those are probably the big 3. And then after that, there's a handful of other threats like Flareon, Dugtrio, Cyclizar to a certain extent. So, yeah, it looks like he's kind of switching up which Pokemon he's using, aside from having Electros and Annihilape every game. And obviously those Pokemon are doing insanely well. How does Annihilate have 11 kills though? Okay, it looks like it went crazy in week 2. 5 KOs? That's insane. Yeah, and then aside from that, just doing pretty well everywhere else. So yeah, very, very impressed with how, with the team and how he's running it. I would have expected for the like physically offensive Pokemon to struggle a little bit, because I feel like counter teaming against those could be I don't want to say easy, because obviously like these Pokemon are really strong, right? And they're able to bulk themselves up in some way with either bulk up, or I guess bulk up on Annihilate and Cerulege and Sword Stance on Quaquaval, but sometimes you're just able to overwhelm mons like that, and you can't really bring Intimidate. Oh, you can't bring Intimidate either because Annihilate has Defiant. Yikes. Okay, obviously a really good team, right? Dunnigan's making it work, right, at 3-1. It looks like most of the games are pretty close, right? Like they have a +1 on their KD overall, but yeah, crazy. Really cool team, and Annihilate is going absolutely insane. All right, let's take a look at our next team here. So we have the Charlotte Beedrills with Byrate Brian, and they are also near the top of the standings. You can see here that they're at 3rd place at the moment in that 2-2 pack, but with positive differential. And yeah, let's take a look at the team. Ooh, I kind of like it. Ooh, I really like it. What? This team looks awesome. Yeah, it looks like they're also switching up which mons that they're bringing every week, which is, I think, one thing that if you're prepping and draft, you can take a look at to see like what are people, what are other coaches enjoying and what are they using most often. But yeah, like when you have a team like this where you look and it's like literally Volcarona is the only Pokemon that's come to every game, you start to kind of wonder like, what am I gonna see when I face against Brian in your Pokemon selection, right? In match preview. So it's really cool to see that, and it looks like several Pokemon on his team are doing well overall, right? I am not surprised that Persian has like a -4 KD, just because like in supportive Pokemon like that, oftentimes like you don't see what their impact is like from a kill differential standpoint, because they're often out there putting some chip damage, getting the game into position where Pokemon like your Aquataurus or Pokemon like your Garchomp are able to pick up KOs. So yeah, not at all surprised to see a lower KD on that Pokemon, just because the job it's doing for the team isn't to pick up the KOs, it's to put it into position where your other Pokemon are. And yeah, I like that this team has like some good options. They have some Redirection, they have some Trick Room, they have some... Did they have Tailwind? Who has Tailwind? I think Volcarona has Tailwind, so... yeah, that might be a combo to go along with Brambleghast, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I really like this team. I think this team could do really well, and especially if Brian keeps mixing up the Pokemon that he's bringing to make it really... I was about to say unique, but that's not the right word. Hard to prep for, hard to estimate which mons are going to be coming. Hard to predict. There we go. That's the word I want. Hard to predict. Making it hard to predict for his opponents to know which Pokemon are coming. I think that he's going to be in a really good spot. So I look at this team and I don't really see anything that I'd want to switch. I think Golduck is pretty low in the point total values, and if he has a like a Rain Dance user, that might be nice. Or if he's actually, Golduck also has the move that stops Cloud9 also has Cloud9, so this might be kind of an anti-weather team, and we saw one earlier that had Torkoal, so it makes sense to have that as a backup option, and they may have not played them yet, and so it's a nice mon to have in your back pocket for instances like that. But I mean, I look at this team and I don't think I'd want to trade anything. Like, team looks pretty good. They have a lot of speed. They have some good mons in Trick Room like King Gambit. I guess really King Gambit's the only one, right? Everything else is fairly quick. So, but King Gambit with Sucker Punch you can still bring on a fast team, and you can bring it as kind of an anti-Trick Room option. So yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, really cool team, and I'm not surprised to see that they're doing well. I think if I had been looking at this team prior to the season starting, I probably would have had it pretty high on power rankings. So yeah, keep it up, Brian. Doing pretty well. Next one here, we have the Vegas Volcaronas with Ant-Man. And okay, this team, just based on how they're season is going, you can look at games played, right? It just looks like it's really predictable, right? We have 4 Pokemon that have been brought 4 times, 1 that's been brought 3, and 1 that's been brought twice, and then like what, 4 Pokemon that haven't been brought at all. So that's the kind of thing that, especially later in the season, people are going to look at this team and go like, well, I know what 6 I'm going to see each game, kind of thing. And it looks like overall they're doing okay. I mean, I guess 1 and 3 isn't too great, right? But if they switch some things up, then it could go pretty well. I would think that you'd want to, let's see. Okay, so let me think about this a little bit more. So, would you want to bring, okay, so they're not bringing Fake Out to their games, right? So Berserk, I think, would be something that would be really worthwhile to bring, right? And it combos super well with Goldengo. So I'm kind of surprised that one's not coming, right? Because you could bring Steely Spirit. Your Make It Rains are going to hit like an absolute truck. And you have Fake Out, so that Goldengo is a little bit safer. So I'm kind of surprised to see that that mon's not coming. And then Low Kicks might be kind of nice as like a choice banded like priority attacker afterwards, to pick things off with like Sucker Punch. Or maybe you go Life Orb and then you'd have like First Impression with Sucker Punch. So like once your Goldengo like nukes things down with Spread, Make It Rain with Steely Spirit boosts, then I think that could do a ton of damage. And then you'd also have Palafin. Yeah, then you'd also have Palafin as priority too. So having those might be really nice. But yeah, I'd say overall the team looks pretty sweet. It just looks like, based on what's happening so far, like if I were to look at this team, like I would prep for Goldengo and Roaring Moon and Palafin. And I feel like the 1 and 3 might show that those Pokemon are being prepped for and his opponents have ways of dealing with it. And so you kind of got to be able to switch things up and bring stuff that is harder to prep for, right? So example that would be like, I mean, I guess you don't really want to bring fairies against this team too much, right? Just because there's the Berserker and the Goldengo, just from like a prepping standpoint. But you kind of need them against Roaring Moon. So maybe like fighting types would come. Yeah, fighting types look fairly good against the team overall. Yeah, so maybe you switch that up and you bring in... Oh, there's no Psychic on the team, huh? I guess that's probably why Florges is doing really well. Like, it's probably taking care of fighting types. Because aside from... yeah, aside from the... Well, I guess there is Ghost typing on Goldengo, but that mon often likes to Terra Steel. Yeah, I don't know. I would, like, looking at this team, I don't know if I'd consider transactions. I'd consider switching up how it's being played to a certain extent, because I think there is a certain level of predictability when looking at this team just based on how it's going at midseason, and switching some things up over the next course of the games could be kind of solid. I wonder how Toadscroll is doing too. We can see it's like from a KD standpoint, it's not doing particularly well, but it might be supporting the team really nicely. I could see Trick Room into Skeledirge being kind of nice. You could have like a Fake Out Trick Room with Berserker and Toadscroll. But I think Berserker could be like a really unsung hero of this team, and I think that it would be really worthwhile to use that mon some more. But having Skeledirge and yeah, having Skeledirge and Appleton come as like a Trick Room mode could be pretty solid. So yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to say without seeing how the games go, but I think that this team might be suffering from a little bit of predictability. And I think if Ant-Man switches that around, I think that might help him out a little bit. Okay, next team we have, oh, this is Gaz. Okay, so Gaz is top of the standings at the moment with a monstrous KD. Oh my god, plus 15 is insane. Like, he's winning games and they're not close. So how is he doing it? Honestly, he's doing it in quite a few different ways, huh? So it looks like Hippowdon is popping off like crazy for sure, though. Look at that, plus 7. And Lycanroc as well. Okay, so that's probably where a lot of it's coming from. Combination of Hippowdon and Lycanroc with, oh yeah, and then you'd have like Scizor and Noivern to kind of clean up after those two. I could definitely see that working. He also has a really nice, yeah, this team's really sweet. It has a Tailwind mode and a Trick Room mode. A little bit of a weather mode as well, so This team has a lot of really good options and strong priority with Scizor too. And ways to stop priority with Farigiraf. Yeah, I'm not surprised that this team is doing well. Like, I think Kaz has built it. And obviously he's playing it, like, drafted it and he's playing it really well. So, is there anything I'd change? I don't know. Like, Creogonal, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Creogonal, just in a general sense. But, like, it is a ground immunity, which is pretty cool. It is pretty quick and has Icy Wind. So, I could see it being brought in instances like that. But honestly, it looks like what Gaz is doing is kind of working, you know? And it looks like the fast mode is mostly what's been working for him. But I could see, like, the trickier mode working. It looks like he's tried it a couple of times. Like, Slow King's been brought a few times. Bellybolt's been brought. Farigiraf's been brought, so. But yeah, the fast mode from this team looks much stronger than the slower mode. And you can see that from the Hippowdon Lycanroc. He's doing in so much work. I imagine there's been a lot of Rock Slide flinches I could see from Lycanroc and being able to just put a bunch of things into KO range for like Scizor or something like that. So yeah, he's doing really well with the team, and obviously, like, I don't know, keep doing what you're doing. All right, next one we have up is the EV Lights, coached by Ignite. And okay, hold up. There's a Dragonite on this team that has been brought 0 times. Yo, what? How is Dragonite being brought 0 times? That Pokemon is insane. Especially this generation with getting like Terra Normal and Extreme Speed. You could Dragon Dance that thing. Gothorita would be really nice for trapping. Yeah, this team looks great. Oh my god, this Sylveon. Oh my god, the Sylveon is carrying this man. Somebody stop it. 16 and 4 with a plus 12? Oh my god. Yeah, it looks like he's bringing it often. And Meowscar has been brought pretty well, or been brought quite a bit. There we go, that's what I want to say. So yeah, it looks like that's been putting in a fair amount of work for him too. Yeah, Gothorita could be a mon to bring potentially more often, because you could get yourself into really advantageous positionings with Shadow Tag. Yeah, and then Toxicroak is a mon that I've really been enjoying in another league I've been playing in. So I could see that one coming quite a bit, but I'm so surprised. I'm surprised Dragonite has been brought 0 times. Yeah, I am. That is wild to me. Oh, okay, hold up. So you can see a little bit from gameplay here, right? Qianpao used to be on the team, and it looks like he's made some adjustments to swap some things around. So it may have been Dragonite is actually a new addition, because Qianpao and Dragonite would be pretty close in terms of point values. So that might have been a transaction actually, which would be why it's not being brought at all. But it looks like Qianpao wasn't doing a whole lot for him. It looks like, so he's got 4 kills, 4, 5, 6 deaths. So it would have been 4, 6 on here. Essentially the same one as the Arcanine. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was a case where he wasn't enjoying Qianpao and wanted to switch it up for Dragonite. But I think Dragonite is awesome. So yeah. And I guess this team, like, I don't look at this team and think that I want to bring Ice type moves, right? Which would be the main weakness for Dragonite. So yeah, because he's got like double steel and a couple fightings and fire type as well, water type. So like ice doesn't seem to be the thing that gets brought against this team. So I could see Dragonite putting in a ton of work for him. Yeah, also at 2-2. Were they on the rankings? Okay, yeah, they're the same as Byrate Brian. So yeah, the team is obviously doing well overall, and Sylveon has been absolutely carrying this. So if you play against Ignite, make sure you have a plan for Sylveon. Make sure you can deal with that Pokemon, because this mon is not messing around apparently. All right, let's take a look at our last 2 teams here. So we have the Farigiraf Fiends, coached by Yub, and it looks like, let me see where they're at in the standings. So 2-2 -8. So 2-2 is still solid, right? But it looks like some of the losses have been pretty lopsided here. Okay, overall, what are we looking at? So it looks like Garganacl and Gastrodon are being brought quite a bit. Ooh, Ursaring is being brought often as well. That's kind of cool. Yeah, and Chi-Yu is pretty sweet too. Does he have a really good Chi-Yu partner? Because I think for me, a good Chi-Yu partner is something that is a really, really strong special attacking threat to take advantage of I think it's Beads of Ruin for Chi-Yu that's going to drop the special defense of all surrounding Pokemon. So like Gastrodon could do that, but it's not really fast. So Jolteon is probably, yeah, it looks like Jolteon is basically the mon that you can bring alongside Chi-Yu, and then you could take advantage of your opponent's stats being lowered. But I'd kind of like to see something, because like those are both weak to ground type moves, right? So like, I don't know, this would struggle like super hard against like a Tailwind plus Garchomp combo kind of thing, where you could just spam ground moves against it. I mean, obviously there are ways around it with Terra, right? But that would be probably, yeah, that would be what I'd be looking for along with Chi-Yu, is how are you going to take advantage of its ability? And you need it to be fast, right? Because otherwise you're losing to its own ability. Which is where the Gastrodon might be having some problem. I don't know for sure without seeing the games, obviously, but Gastrodon is likely to have a kind of a lower KD just because the mon in general is like more there for sponging hits and letting your damage dealers put in a lot of work, which may be like how Chi-Yu is doing very well, but it doesn't output a huge amount of damage itself. But having Storm Drain looks like it could be nice for the team. Like you can sponge away hits from Garganacl. I don't know how you say that Pokemon's name. The rock dude or water types coming for Chi-Yu. Either one I think would be pretty solid there. And Gastrodon's a really bulky mon that switches in pretty well overall. So yeah, I don't know. The team looks pretty well. Having a Trick Room mode here is kind of nice too. They don't have the fastest of mons though. I'm trying to think what's their... So they have like Jolteon, then Chi-Yu, right? So that's kind of the fast mode. And then, yeah, and then there's looks like there's like Trick Room mode with like Spiritomb setting Trick Room. Is there another Trick Room setter? That might be it. And then you could have like a Flame Orb Ursaring go crazy in Trick Room, or just be able to like stall things out with Garganacl, which actually that Pokemon alongside Gastrodon could be really nice. Yeah, because you could kind of, you could wide guard, or like you could use Salt Cure, like get those on your opposing Pokemon, and then Gastrodon plus Garganacl kind of recover next to each other, or switch turns with like Protects and stuff. So I could see the team overall doing work, and I could see like why it's 2-2, but gosh, this league is, or at least this division is super close. All right, last team we have here. So New Orleans Ninetales, coached by Kaylee. I think it's Kaylee. Okay. So it looks like from an overall standpoint, where are they at on the standings? So they're 2-2. They're just out of playoff contention right now with the -5 differential. But overall, it looks like their team is doing fairly well, right? And that's what you would expect to see from a 2-2 team. Yeah, Grimmsnarl, I'm not surprised to see a KD like that at 3-6, just because that mon tends to be more of a supportive mon, and with supportive mons you often see a lower KD just because they're not putting a ton of damage output, and their disruption is enough that they're mons that you typically want to KO. Yeah, Dragapult is obviously doing well. I know they have a really cool strat with Glamora, just being able to set up T-Spikes, and then if they get poisoned, then you can hex things down with Dragapult. Like, that's a pretty cool combo, and I think that would be something that I'd want to look out for in the future. I think Glamora kind of, how do I put it? Glamora incentivizes you to want to have a Pokemon that's a special attacking ghost type with Hex, just because you can get that combo. Yeah, I think overall it looks like the team's doing pretty well. Glamora looks like it's putting in some work. Metacham is too. Dragapult's doing pretty well. Actually, Grimmsnarl, there's quite a few special attackers on here between Pult being mixed, so potentially special attacker with Dragapult, with Glamora, with Pyroar. So Grimmsnarl with Fake Tears is a really nice combination to go along with all those mons. And they have quite a few like bulky Pokemon here too. So like Wo-Chien, Tinkaton is fairly bulky, Mudsdale is pretty bulky. So they have some Pokemon that are nice to be able to switch in and sponge some hits. Grimmsnarl is fairly bulky as well, at least with screens for sure. But being able to parting shot stuff is nice to help some of your Pokemon get in for free, or get in with taking significantly less damage. Yeah, team looks pretty cool, and obviously at 2-2 they're still able to make it into playoffs and do pretty well overall. So nice to see this league. And I think I am gonna just do one video for the Scarlet division, and then I'll put another one together for Violet. Yeah, I want to say that like overall the teams are looking really really strong, and the coaches, you can see here, right, from 3-1 to 1-3, like all these coaches are still in the race to make playoffs. I think if I were to kind of pick my favorite from here, I think I'm looking at Gaz's team, and I'm looking at Pirate Brian's team. So I thought both of those teams looked really strong. Like Gaz's team having so many different modes makes it difficult to prep for, and I could see this team doing really well in a postseason scenario. And then the Charlotte Beedrills was the other one that I really liked as well too. All their Pokemon look really strong. They have a lot of different options on their team as far as fast or slow. It looks like mostly fast, but they can kind of, looks like they can deal with a slow mode fairly well with a ton of different options. So yeah, I think those two teams are the ones that I would put my money on to make it into the postseason and do particularly well there. So yeah, tell me what you think about the different teams. Which one was your favorite? Was there any analysis of the teams that you disagreed with, that you particularly liked, anything along those lines? And yeah, I'll catch you on the next one when we take a look at the Violet division.